resetting the time to 11 o'clock. I realize that a Sunday presentation is not the best time to do this, so this will be left up 24 hours after I give the presentation for those of you who cannot attend live. I was hoping to do Q&A, but I can't see the chat box while I'm doing this. So if you have any questions, put those in the comments section. I'll do what I can best to address this. Again, Sunday wasn't the best time at noon. A lot of people are at church, a lot of people are at trainings, and of course we have the Chicago Bears versus the one-loss Philadelphia Eagles. So like I said, this will be up 24 hours, and be sure to check it out if any of this stuff interests you. So first of all, know your rights when dealing with the police, part one. As you see, this is part one. We're just going to cover the very, very basics today. My name is Chris Miner. A little bit about me. Oh, excuse me. I'm a PhD student in criminology, law, and justice at the UIC here in Chicago. I also come from Champaign, where I have a master's of social work and a bunch of other degrees. I am a formerly incarcerated individual. I have served time inside four county jails and 3 state prisons. I'm also a nonprofit founder and CEO, and I'm currently working with Women in Need Recovery, who is sponsoring this Know Your Rights presentations, and this is an entire package. We'll be doing many more Know Your Rights presentations. I have 5 other presenters who are going to be speaking about knowing your rights on abortion, with LGBTQ communities, your rights returning from prison, all that good stuff, so stay in the loop. So first, a few disclaimers we have to give before I start. One, I'm not a lawyer. I wish I was. I'm not in that pay grade. But because I'm not a lawyer, I cannot legally give you legal advice. Nothing you hear here is going to be advisory and telling you what to do. We're simply informing you of your rights when interacting with the police. We're also not presenting as anti-police. Meaning that we're just aware that police oftentimes overstep their authority. And we believe that more informed people can lead to more positive interactions between the police and the public. Here's a big caveat with all these presentations. Although, yes, you do have the rights, and I'm going to tell you your rights, you must decide when it's safe to exercise these rights. It's easier to comply with police every single time, and non-compliance can lead to violence. Yes, I understand. You have rights. You should be able to use them. But whether a camera's on or not, police have shown that they are willing to break the law. So you have to be careful and protect yourself. Lastly, all this information is coming directly from the ACLU website. We like to do that because they're a well-trusted, well-respected organization, and all this information can be found on their website. So first, let's just cover Miranda rights, because that's basically your first line of defense when dealing with a police officer. You've probably heard these, and we'll kind of get into some of them, but they're pretty much self-explanatory. I do apologize, a lot of these slides have a lot of writing on them, but I know presenting like this, you can't see my pretty face, so hey, at least I give you something to look at so you can read along with me. First, the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney and have them present during any interrogation. If you can't afford a lawyer or an attorney, we have a public defender that you could use free of charge. If you decide to exercise your right to be silent, even if you've started answering questions and then decided, no, I'm not going any further, the interrogation must be halted. And you can invoke your right to have an attorney present, and until he is present, the interrogation must be halted. I want an attorney. I'm not talking anymore. So, the right to remain silent. Basically means you don't have to answer any questions. Police officer asks where you're going, where you coming from, what you doing, where do you live, where you from, what's your name. If you wish to exercise your right to remain silent, say it loudly and say it over and over again. Assert yourself. I'm not talking. I'm not talking. If the place violates your laws, this might come up on a camera, or maybe somebody's recording it, and this can help get you out of stuff. You do not have to consent to a search of yourself or your belongings. Unfortunately, police are allowed to pat you down outside your clothing if they suspect you have a weapon on you. And they can find a lot of probable cause to do that pat down. They can claim a lot of things. So basically, don't resist, but let the police officer know that you are not consenting to a search of your body, your car, your bag, whatever it is. I do not consent. I do not consent. Say that repeatedly. If the police officer does does decide to ignore your rights and do a search anyway, don't physically try to stop them. It's not going to end well for you. In this particular relationship at this time during a police speaking to you, you're not going to win. Just as they illegally search you, keep saying, I do not consent, I do not consent. Oh, so if you are arrested by police, you have the right to a government appointed lawyer if you can't afford one. A lot of people have varying opinions on a public defender, but it's better than nothing. You do not want to be defending yourself in a courtroom without the knowledge of legal process and legalese. You don't have to answer any questions about citizenship. That is a whole different ballgame. Separate rules apply at international borders. What we're talking about here in Chicago or Champaign, Illinois, you don't need to tell where you're from, whether you're a citizen, or how you got here. So those are the rules or the rights when dealing with a police officer who just happened to stop you walking down the street. Now we're going to focus a little on more what you can do, what your rights are when stopped by a police officer when you're in a car. So both the driver and the passenger have the right to remain silent, and it's best to exercise that right. If you're a passenger, you can ask if you're free to leave. If yes, you may silently leave. Why would you do this? Do you feel like you're abandoning a friend? No, but if it's just a situation where it looks like it's going to be an intense stop and you're not under investigation, perhaps it's best to leave. Stop the car in a safe place as quickly as possible. Do not run from the police. Just do not do that. Whether you have a case pending already or you're guilty of something, that chase is going to turn this case into something much more serious. Once you make the turn over, turn off the car, turn on your internal lights, open the windows part way so you can converse with the officer, and place your hands on the wheel. If you're a passenger, do the same thing. Again, you might think, I shouldn't have to jump through all these hoops to deal with the police. I pay taxes, I pay for these people. They're supposed to protect and serve me. Unfortunately, we live in somewhat of a police state where the police always have the upper hand. So please comply. Once it's asked of you, show the driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. I'm seeing a lot of wannabe heroes and lawyers on YouTube making a mistake, thinking they do not have to show their driver's license if they are pulled over for a potential moving violation. That is not true. You must provide identification if you have it on you. And again, avoid making sudden stops and keep your hands where the officers can see them. That's the best advice always, is to be too safe. Be over safe. You want to avoid any kind of physical or violent interaction. When the police are at your door, so the police come knocking. So this is the third scenario. First, we talked about dealing with police if they just walk up to you. Second, about in a car. Now we're going to close out talking about your rights when police are at your door. First, do not invite the officer in. Even if you've done nothing wrong at all, even if you love your local police officer, there is no reason to allow them inside your house. Talk with them through the door and ask them to show identification. Who are you? Please prove to me that you're a police officer and give me your name and your badge number. You're not have to let them in unless they have a warrant. You are allowed to ask to see that warrant up front. It should list your address and your name. If they do not supply the warrant, they cannot come in. Again, if a police officer says, I am coming in, don't try to restrain them. Don't try to push the door closed. You're just asking for a violent interaction. Again, we shouldn't have to be concerned with this stuff, but I just want to be very realistic and give disclaimers as much as I can. And if they do have the warrant, ask them to slip them under the door or hold it up to the window so you can see it without opening and letting them in. Keep that door closed if possible. If you have a screen door, never open that screen door. And just double check the address is the correct address. As we've seen before, police officers can err and they can show up at the wrong place. And that actually, police officers executing a warrant on the wrong place has led many deaths. Feel free to Google that. That's why you have to be very careful. Remember, even if they have the warrant, you still have the rest of your rights. You can still remain silent. I wouldn't answer any questions. Again, if you're completely legitimate and you're like, hey, there's nothing going on here at all, feel free to talk to them. But I can tell you from my lived experience, professional experience, and academic experience, speaking with the police often has this misconception that if you're open and honest, they'll let you go. They'll work with you. I've never found that to be true across any races, ethnicities, ages, or genders. I just don't find that to be true. But it is your prerogative. If you choose to allow the police officers into your house, just be just be aware they could find something if they need to. So just always remember, stay calm. Don't start cussing them out. Don't start talking about fuck the police or any of this stuff. This is not the environment you want to do that. You are not going to win this initial encounter. It is not going to happen. Police are trained to win this initial encounter. Don't run. Definitely don't run. Don't resist or obstruct the officers. Don't tell a lie. Don't give false information. Yeah, if you decide to talk for some reason, do not lie. And keep your hands where the police can see them. Now, really quickly, an anecdotal observation, a little personal story I want to bring in. When it comes time, once you've been read your Miranda rights and you have the right to remain silent, my particular case, I was arrested in Champaign. Urbana cop transported me to the Urbana satellite jail where I waited sentencing. They read me my rights, and the police officer started making small talk. I don't remember exactly what it was about, probably about sports of some sort, so I started talking sports with him. And then after saying I was going to remain silent, he snuck in. And I should give you, a little tiny bit of background. It was a theft case. I had taken much money, ended up pleading guilty, went to prison. It's all over with. But the police officer just snuck in. So where'd you spend the money? I wasn't honestly answering it. I rolled my eyes from the back seat in my handcuffs and said, I don't know. And then he just went right back to sports. I figured that me saying I don't know wasn't taken seriously. Until the next day in video arraignment, when the state's attorney said, when the police officer asked Mr. Minor where he spent the money, he said he didn't know. And that was used against me in court. So yes, definitely stay silent. What to do if you're arrested or detained? Stay silent. Don't give any explanations or excuses. Don't say anything. Don't sign anything. Don't make any decisions without a lawyer, even if that lawyer is only a public defender. No matter how smart you are, or how many YouTube videos you watch, or how many presentations you've seen me done, you still don't understand the legal environment and the legal terminology and the legal processes as well as the judge and the state's attorney do. If you've been arrested by police, you do have the right to make a local phone call. Don't incriminate yourself on this phone call. If you talk to a lawyer, if you're calling a lawyer, the police cannot listen in. But if you're calling a friend or family member, maybe looking for bail, and you decide to come clean on any offense, legal offense you might have committed, that can be used against you. They can and often will listen into these calls. If you believe your rights were violated, write down everything. I mean, some of us might have a photographic memory, but it's a rather intense situation usually when you're getting arrested or being detained. Write down the officer's badges, patrol card numbers, if you can, which agency, is it state, is it county, is it federal? Get contact information for witnesses. If you see people around you, even better yet, if people are recording this interaction, get their number. Tell them your name, get their name, so you can track them down on social media or somewhere. If you are injured or hurt, seek medical attention and definitely take photographs of everything, every little bruise, every little cut. And lastly, file a written complaint with the agency's Internal Affairs Division, or even better yet, if one exists in your municipality, a civilian complaint board. Usually you could do this anonymously. Will anything happen? There's a good chance nothing will happen. But enough complaints against an individual particular officer or a particular department does add up. So anyway, I can't see chat box, so I have no idea if anyone's watching. The next presentation we'll do in a week or two will be on police conduct, or excuse me, police misconduct. I had a couple slides done, but I'm not going to delve into that today since we're already close to 15 minutes. So I will just close up by thanking everybody. Again, this has been sponsored by Women in Need Recovery. If you want to learn more about what they do, just look them up online. And thank you very much. Any questions, put them in the chat and I will get them answered in the next couple hours.